Hello, everyone. Good morning, and welcome to our webinar. I can see people are still joining, so maybe we wait just a little bit so people still have the time to join. My name is Bram Powers. Maybe you know me already. I'm marketing manager at Universum. Let me maybe just briefly introduce Universum for those who don't know us as an agency. First, do you hear me and see me well? Okay, thank you, Jelle and Nicola and Gloria for your answer. Okay, fine. So at Universum, we're a digital marketing agency specialized in global or general digital marketing strategies for different types of organizations, and our focus points are, of course, SEO and content marketing, advertising, so SEA, social media advertising, online advertising, and then, of course, like today, most importantly, Amandine is web analytics. We are a bunch of 35 people. We still have a few vacancies, so a few posts to still fill as we are growing as a company, and we work for different companies in many different sectors. As you can see here, we have a few names of our customers we're working for. So I think that's it in a very small nutshell for about Universum, and then we can go to Amandine for the webinar. A few practical points. You will get the slides and also the replay after the webinar, probably this afternoon. You can, of course, ask your questions in the chat, and then Amandine will check whether she takes the questions immediately or she will bundle them after, like a chapter or at the end of the webinar. Still, I see a nice question from Jelle already. So yes, indeed, the webinar replay to forward to colleagues. No, it's a personal link, so you cannot forward it to colleagues. Still, if you would really like to do this, just drop me a small email, and then I can check it to see how we can arrange it, Jelle. So that's it. If you still have a question and we were not able maybe to answer it during this webinar, don't hesitate to get in touch with us after the webinar. And of course, we can still discuss any topic you want afterwards. So I think I will give the floor now to Amandine for the webinar about Google Analytics for Amandine. There you go.
Yes, thank you, Bram. So hello, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Amandine, and I'm the head of web analytics at Universum. I started working here 3 years ago as a web analytics consultant, and I have evolved until this position of head of that I have today. My daily job consists in developing the web analytics expertise within Universum by providing to our clients the latest services, by coaching the other consultants, and by also sharing the latest news and trends. And that's what I will do today with all of you by presenting you the latest news about Google Analytics for property. So just before starting into the content, I just have a quick question for you. Have you already started to implement GA4? You can reply in the chat. It's just to know a little bit where you are in the process. So here I see a lot of no. Yeah, see, you did. You did as well. Okay, so I think we have lots of different answers. So for those who haven't started to implement it yet, I hope the presentation of today will give you more insight and a better understanding of GA4. And for those who have already started to implement, I hope it will also help you to better understand how you can use GA4 to discover new insights for your business. So for the agenda of today, just switch to the next slide. Yeah, for the agenda of today, we'll start for the first part by covering the main challenges and trends that marketers face today and that led to the creation of a new world of measurements. The second part will include the main advantages and features of GA4 with few comparison with the current version of Google Analytics. And the last part will give you a few guidelines about how to start the implementation of Google Analytics 4. So let's start with the new world of measurements. So you all know that today's digital world is a challenging world, especially with data privacy, which becomes more and more important since 2018 and since the GDPR law has been implemented. There are more and more new regulation, new rules that are communicated by the data protection authorities in Belgium, in France, and in other countries as well. And we need to adapt to those changes in order to avoid any fees, of course. Next to the regulation changes, we also have the browser and operating system that have already started to implement new protection mechanism for the user. I think we can say that Safari is the leader in terms of protection mechanism. We all know the impact that the iOS 14 change had on and has still today on the whole Facebook world. And finally, we also have the user who are more and more aware of their rights and wants really value in return of the data they give to the business. So that's the reason why it's extremely important to be transparent with them. So in addition to meeting the privacy challenges, marketers need more and more to take into consideration the customer journey and the customer experience itself. The sentence delivering the right message at the right place at the right moment is more important than ever because customers are getting more aware of how to search for products, how to compare products, and where to search the different products. And so being able to analyze all those different touch points and all the customer journey will lead in an increase of your return on investment and an increase of the customer experience itself. And so with this in mind, investment in automation, predictive tools, using artificial intelligence, machine learning, and a focus on really the user in order to optimize his experience will be and is already one of the biggest trends of the year and for the coming years as well. And so those trends regarding data privacy and user focus has led to a creation of a new world of measurement because there is a shift that it needed in the way we collect and analyze data. And this new world of measurement is really focused on three main keywords, which are the consent of the user, the first-party data, and the modeling capabilities. And so that's in reaction to this trend that Google has adapted the product and solution and has launched Google Analytics 4. So for those who know a little bit the history of Google Analytics, just see that. Can you show the slide bigger? I don't know if it's possible, Bram. I don't know if you know, because I see a few questions in the chat.
Okay, no, I don't think it's possible. If you have the two modes, Amandine, and I think you put it on the biggest one. Still, maybe if you zoom in on your browser, isn't it possible, Sven or Jelle, or full screen? Yeah, full screen is possible.
Yeah.
I could see.
Okay. Yeah, sorry for the interruption, but
yeah, okay, no, but it's important to see it well. Okay, voila, we can continue.
Okay, great. So I can continue. So yeah, I was just saying that so the Google has reacted to this trend by launching Google Analytics 4. And for those who know a little bit the history of Google Analytics, the current version, so the Universal Analytics is the third version of Google Analytics. And so Google Analytics 4 is the newest version. That's the reason we call that the fourth version. And it was previously known as App plus Web, and it has been fully launched in last October, so almost 1 year ago, even though there is still new improvement and modification that needs to be done. It was out of beta since almost 1 year. And this new property is totally different from what we are used to see in the current version of Google Analytics. And that's what we will discover today together. But the objective of Google with this new version is clearly to provide a solution that respects the consent of the user, that allows to collect first-party data, and that also allows to use all the modeling capabilities to fill in all the gaps that will be due to the loss of data we'll have due to data privacy. So here it is for the introduction. I don't see any question yet in the chat, so I hope everything is clear for everyone. So let's go into the second parts of the webinar, which are the main advantages and features of GA4. So the first main advantage of GA4 is the fact that you could combine together different data sources and track user across different devices in a single place. So we know that customer journey are becoming today more complex with the number of connected devices per household, which is increasing a lot. However, according to a study conducted by Forrester, less than half of the firms have a unified way of analyzing the cross-platform data they have. And so they have some difficulties to analyze all the customer interaction in a single place. And this results in challenges such as siloed data, an incomplete view of the customer journey, and also a poor customer experience. And in this way, GA4 will help you facing this challenge by allowing you to collect under a single property different sources of data. So we'll be able to collect data from your website, data from your app, and also import offline data directly into the platform. That was not available before. If you have already an app, you know that currently you have different properties for your website and for your app. But today with GA4, we can combine everything under a single place. And so with all your data at the same place, it's much more easier to analyze the customer journey of the user of your website and to take the best decision for your strategy accordingly. So next to the cross-platform view that you can have, the second main advantage that is allowed by GA4, and it's for the first time in Google Analytics, is the fact that you can use together 3 identifiers in order to have this single unified cross-device customer journey. So how does it work exactly? So when a user arrives on your website, Google Analytics will check if there is a user ID assigned to this user. A user ID will only be available if you have a login feature on your website and if you have assigned by making few configuration this user ID to the user. So if there is no user ID because you don't have any login feature on your website or because you haven't done the configuration, Google Analytics will check if Google Signals is enabled. Google Signals is a solution that will check the connection of your Google accounts. So for example, if the user is browsing on a website via his desktop and is connected on his Google accounts, and then later on the same day, he's checking the same website, but from his mobile phone, and he's still connected on his Google account on his mobile phone, then Google Analytics will know that this is the same user thanks to the fact that he's connected to his Google account. Of course, this feature needs to be enabled in Google Analytics, and you should also have accepted to share this information in order to be available in the different accounts. And finally, if Analytics doesn't find any user ID, or if Google Signals is not enabled, the last way of identifying user is the ID of your device, so the ID of your desktop or the ID of your app. And so Analytics will be able to create a single user journey from all the data associated from these 3 identifiers. And so that's also an improvement based on the current version, because in the current version, the user ID was also available, but in a different report. And now we can just combine everything together and have really a full story of the journey of the customer. And so how to benefit from this data? First of all, you will have access to a specific cross-device report into Google Analytics that allows to more actively track user across different platforms. Then with Google Signals Enable, you can also collect demographics data about your user, such as gender, age, interest. After that, you can also use those data in your advertising strategy to make remarketing, for example, or also to optimize your ad spend and ad delivery based on cross-device usage. And so this is for the first main advantages here. I see just a question from Yelle. So is this tracking across device and across time? Like when a user returns within a time span of several weeks, 100% reliable in our business. User often visits product page 5 times before converting. So if any device ID is used, there is no cross-device tracking. So yeah, if only the device ID is available, there is no cross-device tracking available, because the ID is really specific to a device itself. And regarding the time frame, of course, it always depends on the cookies, because we all know that if a user deletes his cookie, we don't have the information anymore regarding the device ID and the session. So that's, of course, not 100% reliable across the time, but that's for everything with the current situation, with the deletion of cookies by the user and by the browser as well. So if we go further into the next elements regarding Google Analytics 4, so the second main feature is one of the biggest change in this new version. It's the switch from session-based to event-based model, where we have really a focus on the users and on the online behavior rather than on a session. And so the event represents really a fundamental change in the way data is collected and is analyzed, because in the current version of analytics, so in Universal Analytics, all the default reports are based on the session. So you have a user that comes to your website and that can make a session under which he can see a page view, he can make an event, he can make a transaction. But in the new version of Google Analytics, all the data will be collected based on the event model. So you will have the user that can make several events on your website, and for each event, you can specify a number of parameters to better identify the event or to add additional information regarding this event. And so this event-based model allows for more customization and is also more representative of how users interact with your website and app. And that's also useful because it can be consistently used across the different platforms. And so as a consequence, any interaction in GA4 in GA4 can be captured as an event. So any interaction in Universal Analytics that you know, so the event, the page view, the transaction, the user timing, and so on, it will be called an event in GA4. So we'll see events everywhere. In terms of naming, it's quite easier. In terms of understanding, of course, we need to get used to this new nomenclature. And so what does it mean? It means that there is a new way of reporting and visualizing the data, because in the different reports, the notion of session won't be available anymore. Well, it will still be available, but it will be less present, and it will be the notion of users, new user, that will be more active in the different graphs and tables that you will see. Next to that, you will also have new metrics available in the different reports. such as engaged session, engagement rate, engaged session per user, engagement time, and that will help you better understand how people engage with your website or your app. And so regarding the different actions that user can take on your website, they can be classified into one of the 4 types of events available under Google Analytics 4. The first type of event is the automatically tracked event. So as its name indicates, the events are automatically tracked by Google and are always available in the different reports. Those events are first visits, session starts, and user engagement. I think that first visit and session starts, the definition is quite obvious. And regarding user engagement, you can customize it according to your need. So in GA4, you have a specific setting where you can specify if a user engagement on your website is a user that spent 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes, or 10 minutes, depending on your website. The second type of event available are the enhanced measurement events. These are also automatically tracked events, but only if you decide to switch them on. We'll just see not that much more into detail in a few seconds. Then the third event is the recommended event. So these events, you need to configure them manually, but you can use the nomenclature suggested by Google according to your business in order to avoid having too many different names of events per business. And finally, the last one is the custom event. So if none of the options previously presented are suited to your needs, then you can really create your own custom specific event. And so regarding the event via the enhanced measurement, so as I mentioned, these are automated tracked events available that Google suggests. And the aim is to make the basic tagging easier for non-developers. And among the different events available, you have, of course, the page view, which will be tracked automatically, but you can also have the scrolling, the outbound links, the site search, so when users search something on your website, the video engagement, if user play the video, progress 25%, 50%, and also the download of files on your website. Just take into consideration that those events are also basic tagging, and so more micro conversions than macro conversion. And so it allows to have basic tagging quite easily on your website. But as soon as you want to track more advanced form or more advanced elements on your website, then you will need to make manual tracking and more advanced configuration. And finally, if you have an e-commerce website, you will be happy to hear that new elements have been added inside the e-commerce funnel. So you can now add as a predefined event the fact that people add products into the wish list or in the favorites. You can also have now the event view card once the products have been added to the basket. And regarding the checkout step, there are now 2 predefined steps, which are the shipping and the payment information step, that are also available and that are, of course, the more obvious steps in an e-commerce funnel. Okay. So I will just check just the question here. So yeah, regarding the cookie, so user don't need to only manually delete the cookie, but the browser can also delete the cookie by themselves. And also the cookies has a specific time frame. So normally a cookie couldn't be active for more than 13 months due to GDPR privacy. So it won't stay like indefinitely, but it can stay for a while. So Loic, is this retroactive? The user logs in at his third visit. Will GA4 link the data with the 2 first visits. So no, the data should be available with the session of the user. So you need to send the information. So if a user login, then you need to send the ID of the user with all the action that the user is doing on the website. So it's not retroactive regarding the user ID. So Pierre, just for a question, so no session will be considered as an event. Yes and no. So you will still have the notion of session into Google Analytics 4, but it will be analyzed differently. I don't want to say that it's exactly the same thing, but you will more have events such as first session starts. So it will more defined what users are doing inside the session than explaining the session in general. And Ophélie, for the video engagement tracking, is it only for our own YouTube videos? There is some specificities regarding the video tracking. I think it's only related to YouTube or HTML5 video. It's automated by Google, so of course, it's not possible to take into account all the custom tracking that are possible on all the different websites. So from Vincent, will all data history from GA switch to GA4? So unfortunately, no, at least for now. Maybe Google will announce something new in the following years. We don't know, but at least for now, no. If you create a new GA4 property, you will only have the data available as the moment you create the new property. That's the reason why we recommend to start as soon as possible, because when you will make the switch, at least you will have access to more historical data. And so Augusto, no more bounce rate. So no more bounce rate for now, but there are other metrics that could, of course, replace. I don't like the word replace because I think we can't say that this new version should totally replace the old version. It's another way of analyzing data. So it's more improvement, and we will just need to take into consideration the fact that some metrics won't be available anymore in the new version, but that we'll have new metrics which can give us more powerful insights. So here it is for the small question. Then we can go further because I think I replied to everything. No, there was just the last one with Data Studio dashboard. So yeah, for the Data Studio dashboard, we have started on our site at Universum to create new dashboards based on GA4. Of course, I won't say it's difficult because Data Studio is still Data Studio, and GA4, as soon as you have understood the way it works, then it's quite easy to understand how to analyze the data. So of course, the objective is to rebuild the dashboard, but to have new dashboards which can also bring you new insights. But yeah, indeed, you need to rebuild the dashboard or create a new one based on this new version. So if we go ahead with the third element of this new version of Google Analytics, is the fact that we can have additional insight on user behavior thanks to new reports and new way of analyzing the data. So historically in Google Analytics, you have a bunch of predefined reports in the left-hand navigation of your interface. And as more features became available with the time, of course, the number of reports has increased at the same time until now, where we have, I think, a lot, maybe too many, I don't know, but a lot of different reports with a lot of different data. And in the new version of Google Analytics, the way to report data is much more simplified. So of course, you will still have the real-time report that will take into account data from the past 5 seconds to 30 minutes ago. You will still have on the left-hand navigation a few summary reports, but less than in the current version. And the report will also be organized in a different way. So there will be more an overview of the metrics you would like to analyze. And if you want to go deeper into the analysis, you can just click on a link at the bottom of a table, bottom of a graph, that will redirect you to another report with much more details. So you will still have reports, but in a different way. There will be less report, but more flexibility. And also another element that is interesting is, since a few weeks, you have a new feature in the left-hand navigation called Library that allows you to customize the reports on the left-hand navigation. So you can just rename the reports. You can also add new graph in the reports, delete few that are not interesting for you. So that really allows more flexibility depending on what you really need and what you really want to analyze. And in addition to the real-time reports and to the summary reports, you will also find the exploration tab. So if the insights you are looking for are not available in the predefined report, you can just go into the exploration tab, where you can just drag and drop a lot of different dimension, metrics, segment, filter, and sort the data, I would say, almost as you want, in order to have the analysis and the insight that you would like to discover. And once you have discovered the interesting data set, you can easily export them or share them with your colleagues, with your team, in order to further analyze the data collected. And so if you want to better know how it looks like, here it is. So you have the exploration interface with the first tab called Variables that allows you to simply give a name to your analysis, choose the time period that you want to analyze, and also specify the dimension and segment that you would like to use. The second part, called Tab Settings, allows you to choose the type of analysis you want to run. You can run a free-form, a path analysis, segment analysis, final analysis, user analysis, and a few others. And you can also choose the visualization, the metrics that you would like to analyze, and other visualization features. And the last part, so the third part, is the final output of your whole analysis that will appear in the right-hand side of the interface. And so, as examples are always better than words, I will give you a few examples of the type of analysis that you can do. The first one is the path exploration. So here you can understand how a user will behave on your website or on your app. You can better understand which action they take before completing a form, completing a contact form, or completing any other important conversion. So you can reply to the question, what are my visitor doing before completing a code request, contact form, or whatever the conversion. And this exploration technique is really great because in addition to this path, you can have the path, so the first step, second step, and so on, but you can also have the reverse path. So you can also start by the ending point and see what user has done before. So that's an improvement relative to the current version of analytics, Universal Analytics. And so you can easily, with this report, so discover the top page that user has checked after the home page. You can also uncover looping behavior. You can also reply to the question, okay, how are my users reacting when they face an error in the checkouts process? So that's really a powerful analysis that you can make, and you have really a lot of flexibility, so you can analyze almost wherever you want. And a second example is the funnel exploration. So here, Google Analytics 4 offers you really a powerful new funnel visualization tool that was previously only available in GA360. So you can create really funnel visualization with the different steps that user need to take before completing a task, and quickly see how the steps, all the different steps are performing. So you can quickly see if one of the steps is not performing well, or if others are totally okay. And so you can easily see how are your website visitors becoming buyers at the end. And what is great also in comparison with the current version of analytics is that if you want to include a step or remove a step, you can really do it quite easily. It seems quite simple, but we had the experience with a few clients in the configuration of Google Analytics. When we face an optional step, there was no possibility in the current version of Analytics. So either we needed to add the steps, either we need to delete it, but we cannot just choose to add it at some point or delete it at other ones. Here we can really do whatever we want. And also what is great in this new funnel exploration is the fact that you can add a comparison between different customer segments. So you can compare depending on the desktop or mobile or tablet. You can also compare the step depending on the traffic source. And you can also know the time that user spent on the different steps of the funnel. So that's also something really powerful because, for example, if you notice that the average time on a checkout step is 10 minutes, while it should only be 2 minutes normally, you can, of course, notice that there might be an issue on this step, and you can conduct further analysis. And then why not identify the issue and make an A/B testing in order to improve the conversion rate. So in comparison with the current possibilities in the Universal Analytics, this funnel analysis report is really much more powerful and has a lot of improvement from what was available before. So here it is for the first, for the third element. So I will just read a few questions here. So what's the big difference with the reverse path analysis through the current GA3? The big difference is that in the current path analysis, so you cannot have a lot of flexibility regarding what you want to analyze, and you are limited to the page themselves. While in GA4, you can really use whatever event that you want. So you can use the page, you can use an event, you can use really much more elements. So that's the main difference. But Pierre, I encourage you to try it by yourself to see the main difference. Is it linked with Google Optimize? No. So no, it's not yet linked with Google Optimize. So we can now link it with Google Ads. But that's it, not yet with Google Search Console. So only Google Ads for now. Regarding the attribution source of the user, yes, there are new reports available. Well, for now, it's still the top conversion path and the different modeling attribution reports that are available. But I'm confident that new elements will come afterwards. But you can also for now have the possibility to analyze the data based on different attribution model, and also to change the attribution model for your analysis. So there are already improvements, but I'm pretty sure there will be more improvements in the following weeks, months, and year probably. I will just check because I see there is a big question as well. So just the time to read it. So from Vincent, in place of a complete switch for a more easy transition period and avoid data loss, is it possible to let GA and GA4 exist in parallel for a certain period? So yes, of course, and that's one of our recommendation that I will share with you really at the end. But yes, of course, the main recommendation of today is to have a dual tagging in place. So at least you have both versions available at the same time. And so Jeremy, so I've read there are a lot of difference between variables, names, identifiers between GA4 and Universal Analytics. You also show that the data are event-based instead of session-based in UA. What about the historic data of the account and the comparison with year 1, year 2 after the switch? Or we let both running like Vincent Jardin, as asked here above. So yeah, for now, the recommendation is to let the both version running, so at least you can already collect historical data. And because we know the switch is not like for today, we know GA4 is not totally ready today, but at some point you won't have the choice to switch to GA4. So that's what is important, to start as soon as possible to already collect the data. And once the total switch will be done, you will be ready and you will have all the historical data needed. So I will come back again to the presentation. So the fourth element I wanted to share with you is the fact that GA4 has been, of course, built to be future-proof based with the aim of helping marketers to face today's challenges. And the first feature I would like to share with you is the automated insight and custom insight. So for those who know the current version of analytics, you will notice that it's something that already exists today. However, the artificial intelligence in the new version of Google Analytics will be more present and more active than in the current version. And the artificial intelligence will indeed detect any unusual change or trends in your data and will notify you automatically via the automated insight. And next to that, you can also create your own custom insight in order to detect any changes in data that are important for you. And so in today's world where organizations are looking for investing in automation tool, insight generation tool, and so on, that can be, of course, costly and time consuming. Here you have the possibility to have access to artificial intelligence for free. So that's always great to take advantage of it. The second element regarding future-proof is the fact that machine learning becomes more and more critical in closing all the gaps of missing data, which is, of course, inevitable in this world without, well, almost without cookies. And so in this case, with the machine learning capabilities, Google will enrich and nurture your data in order to improve its modeling capabilities and in order to help you predict the behavior of your user. And so you will have access to specific predictive metrics. For now, you have 3 of them. So the first one is the purchase probability. So the probability that a user who was active in the last 28 days will make a specific conversion within the next 7 days. You have the churn probability. Here's the probability that the user who was active won't be active anymore in the next following days. And the last one is the revenue prediction. And it's, in this case, the revenue expected from all the purchase conversion in the following month. And so those predictive metrics will, of course, help you to better predict the behavior of your user, but you can also use them to create specific audiences that you can use in your advertising product. So for example, you can use them in your remarketing audiences, because if you have users who are close to make a purchase or conversion or whatever, of course, the probability that they will make the conversion is higher. So it could help you increasing your return on investment and to optimize your different campaigns. Then the third element regarding the future is the fact that GA4 will be ready for the new GDPR solution suggested by Google. So we all know that we are now more or less in a transition period where we had big change in terms of privacy and where all the platforms are not ready yet, and that we don't have any miracle solution that can solve all the loss of data that we have today. That's something we know, but something we also know is the fact that the platforms are working on new solutions in order to help filling all those gaps and to help being still able to optimize the data, measure the performance, and so on. And among the different solutions suggested by Google, there is the consent mode. If you haven't already heard about it, so the consent mode allows to adjust the triggering of the tag based on the consent of the user. So when the user comes to your website and agrees to give his consent, data will be observed as normal. But when users don't give the consent, data will be observed without any cookies. And so Google will use all those data to nurture the modeling capabilities and allows to better measure the performance and optimize the campaigns. For now, there is no report available regarding the data observed without any cookies, and consent mode is still in beta. But we hope that in the future, we'll also have access to that kind of data that can be collected without any cookies. Alors, so I will just check the question. Do you know when the switch from UA to GA4 will occur? So the official switch has already been done because with this communication last October, Google has clearly announced that GA4 is the new version by default of Google Analytics. So officially, it's already the new version, but in terms of configuration, we don't know yet. There are still some improvements to be done, some modifications. So Google will make the necessary changes across time. And I guess when the solution will be totally ready, we will be aware of. But yeah, it's not like for today or tomorrow. Of course, it will take time to build this new version. And so let's go into the last part of the agenda, how to start the GA4 implementation. But before, I will just summarize a little bit what I've told you and explained you before, and the reason why it's important to implement GA4 today. So the first thing, and that's what I was just explaining, is the fact that GA4 is the new official version of Google Analytics. And so you need to invest in this new version. Even if it's not today, it will be like in a few weeks, few months, few years. You won't have the choice at one point. So that's better to implement it as soon as possible in order to collect historical data. The second argument is the fact that GA4 is designed for the long term. So Google has built a solution that could work with or without cookie or identifiers, and that will help fill all the gaps due to data privacy. The third element is the fact that you can have a more complete overview and understanding of your customer journey with the cross-platform, cross-devices capabilities. And the last element is the fact that with the power of machine learning, predictive tools, automation, and all those new tools, you can also conduct deeper analysis and leverage better insights to improve your decision, your strategy, and your investment at the end. And so more operationally, how to really get started for the implementation. So if you go into your Google Analytics account, under the property, you will find the field GA4 Setup Assistant that will help you getting started with the creation of your GA4 property. You will need to complete few information about your business, the time zone, and other general settings. Once you are done, you will be provided with a measurement ID. So the measurement ID is more or less the same than the current UA tracking code, so which start with UA and then numbers of few numbers afterwards. But now it's like G and then few numbers afterwards, so it's more or less the same. And once you have the measurement ID, then you will need to implement it on all pages of your website, either directly on your website, either via tag management systems such as Google Tag Manager. That's what we would recommend. And once the code is implemented, you will start collecting basic data into your Google Analytics property, such as the events, the traffic acquisition, the duration, etc. And once it's done, you can go under the enhanced measurement section and toggle on or off the basic tagging interaction you would like to track. So as mentioned previously, be aware that this enhanced measurements just allow to collect parts of the tracking on your website, but it doesn't allow you to customize all the events, all the configuration as you would like to do for your business. So if you want to track specific form submission, specific quote requests, or if you want to implement e-commerce tracking, of course, in this case, it's important to be able to make more advanced configuration and to have knowledge and skills in the tracking, because it's great for basic tagging, but it won't allow you to track all your websites directly by yourself. And so here are a few tips and tricks for your implementation. So first of all, it starts by identifying your business tracking needs. So we think that GA4 is a great opportunity to review what you are currently doing with your website, what you are currently tracking. And so that's a good solution to have a plan in mind to discuss with your colleagues the different KPIs that you would like to track that are important for your business and that have an impact on your revenue. The second element is, and that's something that I've mentioned also before, is to implement dual tagging. So to have both Universal Analytics and Google Analytics 4 implemented in parallel in your Google Analytics account. And so by doing this, you will still be able to check your data in the current version of Analytics. And at the same time, you will also learn how the new version will behaves, how to use the new version as well, and make some comparison between the two. The third element is use Google nomenclature wherever possible. So in the past, we had lots of customization possible. That's still possible today, of course, but that's also great to follow a little bit what Google recommends in terms of suggestion. And the last element is, of course, do not forget to update the tracking in GA4. So as I said, the version is not totally finalized. Google is making updates each week, each month. And so that's extremely important to be really up to date with these new changes in order to have constantly a great tracking in place. What we are doing at Universum is that all the team follows different news that are configured into GA4. And each month we have an internal meeting where we discuss together the different trends, and we implement all the new configuration on our client account. So that's also extremely important to update, as we know it's not finalized yet. So that was it for me for today for the presentation. I will maybe just check because I saw there was few other question. So is there any online training developed by Google to get familiar with this new version? And I saw that Hubert, thank you, has already replied. So yes, there are a few videos already available just to get started with the basic information about the new version of GA4. So I'm just checking because there are several messages here. So what about data stream? If we have several websites, is it better to use different streams? So yes. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we don't have the notion of views anymore in this new version of Analytics. We only have this notion of property, and under property, you can configure different data stream below a specific property. And in this case, you can, of course, differentiate data stream based on different parts of the website or different websites. However, for now, there are a lot of discussion about that because we lose a little bit the possibility to analyze data per region, per language, or whatever. We know that it's something that's always interesting in the current version of analytics to have a view for, I don't know, for the Belgian market, a view for the French markets, and so on. And in the new version, it's not something really possible. So there are a lot of discussion in the different forums. And that's something that Google is aware of. So we hope there will be an improvement regarding that afterwards, and that it will be more clear about how we can really benefit from those data streams to analyze data from several websites or several regions. Just check the question. Don't hesitate if I haven't replied to your question to add it back in the chat, because I see a lot of different messages. I'm just trying to reply to all of them. So I'm just checking. So I see the question from Andy with the ITP tracking issue on Safari with GA4. So of course, GA4 won't solve all the issue and won't be able to bypass, you can say it like that, all the restriction put by the browser, because if data privacy is there, there is a reason to be there. So we won't be able to come back to the previous version of what we could track. However, objective of GA4 is to be able more and more to work without the cookies, and that's the example I showed with the consent mode. So that's where we would like to go, that to go towards tracking without any cookies that could help collecting additional data regarding user behavior by respecting the consent of the user at the same time. So it might solve few of the issues we currently have, but of course still difficult to come back to the world that we have before, because data privacy is more and more important. I don't see any question anymore in the chat. Just Ophélie, so I can have both tag within my header, the GA4 and the previous one. Yeah, you can still have both tag in header on your website, either via Google Tag Manager, even though I would recommend to switch to Google Tag Manager or any other tag management system, because it will also provide you with more solution and more solution for new features that will come afterwards regarding GDPR. So I think with all the solutions that will come in place, it could be easier to switch to a tag management system. So yeah, still have 2 minutes, but we have 1 minute, so I think we are right on time. I hope you learned a lot today, and that this webinar was useful for you. If you have any other question, of course, don't hesitate to either contact me, either contact Universum. We are still available, and I wish you a good day. I don't know, Bram, if you want to add something.
Of course, I want to. I first want to thank you, Amandine. It was very interesting, at least for me, and I think also for the viewers. I saw the questions, so thanks a lot. As I told you before, we send you the replay and the slides. We send them to you, and then if you have any other question, of course you know how to reach us. And then another message I still have for you. So we can do again trade fairs and stuff. So maybe you know it. Digital First will take place this year in a physical mode. So hopefully it can effectively take place. And I guess it will be on the 14th of October in Tour and Taxi in Brussels, and we have a booth there. And also Harold will, our colleague, our head of advertising, will do has a slot over there. So there we also do a presentation, and you're more than welcome to visit us there as well. So thanks a lot to everybody, and hope to see you soon. Bye.